going to do bones of the feet today, which is easy peasy, but lots of important muscles will connect to them later. The bones of the foot help, along with your fascia and your muscles, to create proper arches in your foot. And so just remember, a foot, very much like my hand right now. My hand is curved this way. You can see that. What's hard to see is it's also curved this way. It's cupped a little bit. And I know you don't see that on your feet because they're kind of flat, but the bones inside actually have an arch going this way and this way. It's more of a bowl. And it's done that way so that your foot will actually expand out every time you step. Not just the arch going down this way, but it'll smush out to the sides too, to compensate for your weight. Otherwise, your bones would snap every time instantly. It'd be really bad. So your foot has an arch in it, two arches, one kind of curving over this way, rounded over this way, and one going this way. And they're meant to compensate, and your bones help form that arch, and then your fascia helps keep that arch strung tight so that it kind of goes whoop, whoop, whoop. And the reason you get plantar fasciitis, by the way, is this gets whoop, 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 too often and too much without enough rest in between. And the muscles down here help support this too. So we've got a lot of muscles under the feet that we're going to learn about later that help to bend your toes, all that stuff. But what the book doesn't really talk about is they really help preserve your arch and help pull it back up step after step. They're not just meant to bend your toes. They're not just meant to do stuff like this. They're meant to also kind of hold that structure in place and let it expand and contract. And this is why we tend to develop fascial type problems. Fasciitis, tendinitis, ligamentitis, bursitis, is because the muscles get weak after a while. And then what happens is the only thing left to support that arch or whatever joint in our body we're using for a particular exercise is the fascia. And the fascia is pretty good for a while. It's pretty rubbery, but after a while it gets tired too. It's doing the job all by itself that it was supposed to be doing with muscles. And so it gets tired too, and then eventually it just gets overused. And if there's not enough rest in between, it's a problem. Miss Carrillo, please.
I have like two devices, so I was trying to figure out which one.
I was like, yeah, you're talking out of one icon, but anyway, you're doing great.
So I'm trying to understand. I forget which one I'm looking at. So I'm trying to understand. So I'm used to thinking like if it's tight. So if we're talking about the arch, it was tight, and I guess if we were walking, I thought the tightness was coming from, from the arch being over tight, from the muscles underneath, and when we walk, it kind of goes like this.
Yep.
But then when you introduce the new concept of the muscles being weak, it made me think now that when the arch is more like this, and when we walk, it's getting stretched like this.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Is that?
Not having enough arch there would create some extra problems. I don't know if I fully understand what you're saying, but yeah. You're probably losing arch as that happens, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to make sense of it.
Yeah, I'm sorry too. And by the way, some of you are probably wondering what happens when you have no arch. Believe it or not, you can compensate. What happens is you kind of work on your toes a little bit more, and you still use this stretch from your calves to kind of compensate for that. But even that can cause plantar fasciitis. There's still this tension line down the back of your leg around your heel to your tippy toes to kind of help this spring-loaded kind of thing. And that's one of the main jobs of fascia, by the way, is not just to protect your body, to conserve energy. So when I walk, I want to spring-load my fascia and bounce along to the next step. That's why running looks like this. Right? Otherwise, running would actually look like... But we actually bounce when we run. And we're bouncing off our fascia. I don't think I answered your question at all, by the way, Ms. Carrillo, but I went off on another tangent, so it looked like I knew what I was talking about. And that's what's important. Okay. So, but I'm happy to try to answer it again when you want to phrase it differently or something. Okay. So, any other questions before we talk about, well, actually, I'd like to do a little quick muscle review, bone review and muscle review because we don't have a lot of foot bones to go over today, and you don't have a lot of homework, and you'll have time to do it in class. And I want to make sure that you retain something before you go on vacation and forget literally everything that we have taught you. Miss Abelos, please.
Real quick about the feet before we go into that.
Yeah.
So there are hundreds of muscles and tendons and ligaments inside of the foot.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of seeing in the book where we're going, but can you please like identify the main tendons that we need to know and address during this? Because there's so many.
Wow, that is a really hard question. Thanks a lot. Well, do you mean the tendons or do you mean the ligaments? Because remember, tendons attach muscle to bone. So if you
Right.
ask me to identify the tendons, I'll identify the muscles and tell you where they insert, and that identifies the tendons. That's how they insert, is with the tendons.
So we need to know all 20 calf muscles. Is that what I'm asking you that?
Well, wait a second. On the back side of the calf, in the sural region, the posterior tibial region, posterior leg region, there's only 6 muscles. And then on the lateral side, it depends how we're dividing up the leg, by the way, Miss Avalos. We just might be saying this differently. On the lateral side of the leg, there's 2 more muscles, 6, 7, 8. And then in the anterior side, there's 1, 3 more muscles. So there's 5. There's only 11, I think, in the leg. 11 leg muscles. So and that are going. Some are going down. Well, they're all going down the feet. Now,
I think I'm including the feet.
okay, yes, you are. That would make sense. So yes, yeah, you need to know them all 20.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, my gosh, yes, especially you, Miss Avalos, more than anybody.
Ask me in 3 weeks.
All right. Well, let's ask you right now and do it together so we can help everybody because I know you like preview of coming attractions.
Oh, we're on the leg. Okay, let's start on the leg.
Let's just do leg right now. We're not going to do foot yet because we haven't done foot bones yet. But remember how I've been asking everybody, what are the 3 calf muscles? That question is going to expand because you have, right? So you have 3 calf muscles. What are the 3 calf muscles, Miss Avalos?
Gastrocnemius, soleus, and plantaris.
Thank you. Deep to those, everybody. The plantaris, it's not quite that way. You'll see why. But anyway, deep to those. Sucking up right next to the tibia and fibula on the back side. So deep underneath your calves, between your calves and your leg bones, is 3 other muscles. One is the posterior.
Posterior, tibial posterior.
Yep, tibialis posterior.
Okay.
The
flexor digitorum longus.
Yes, because it's long and it goes down and hooks on all my toes and flexes them. Yep.
And then,
the one that,
oh my gosh, I keep thinking, see, here's where I'm not ready because I'm still going back down to the feet and trying to draw lines up.
yeah.
Like, does the digiti minimi go up into the calf?
Well, you just, by the way, told me the flexor digitorum longus, which flexes my digits, but
There's
not...
a brevis in the foot.
There is a brevis in the foot, but stay on the back leg with me.
Okay.
What's going to flex the big toe?
Your adductor hallucis, right?
Well, I love that you use the word hallucis. That's my big toe.
The flexor hallucis longus.
There you go. So she just named the 6 muscles in the back of the leg, which are gastrocnemius soleus plantaris. Underneath that is tibialis posterior, flexor digitorum longus, flexor hallucis longus, because somehow I have to curl my toes down. Now, you are right, Miss Avalos, there are brevis versions too on the bottom of the foot when we get there, right?
Right.
Anytime they say longus, there's a brevis.
And then there's an anterior too, so.
Yes. Now on the anterior, on the front of your tibia, what muscle would be on the front of your tibia? Remember it was on the back of your tibia.
Well, you have your tibialis anterior.
Perfect.
On the medial side,
and then
right?
on the back side I had these muscles that ran down and curled my toes under. On the front side I need something that lifts my toes back up. What would I call that when my toes go kick out like that?
Extensors.
Good. And I need to extend my digits and I need to extend my big toe.
So extensor, hallucis, big toe, longest.
Yeah. And then my digits.
Extensor digitorum, longest.
Yes, thank you, Harry Potter. Extensor digitorum longus, yeah, exactly. And those live on the shin, basically on the anterior tibialis area. So you got the tibialis anterior, extensor digitorum longus, extensor hallucis longus. On the side of my leg, over the fibula, there are two more muscles to learn. And these are on the lateral side of the leg. And
Okay.
lateral is important because they really do run right over that bone. They run over the fibula so well that some people call these muscles, and I think your book does too, it goes back and forth. They call them the fibularis. And you've got a fibularis longus and brevis. And there was one on the side of your leg. Kind of like, you got. We're going to learn this all, but I'm just throwing this out there because you asked. So, and some people also call the fibularis longus and brevis, they call it the peroneals. The peroneus longus and brevis. The fibularis and the peroneals are the same thing, two different names. I think fibularis is back in fashion now. Anyway, fibularis longus and brevis is a great thing to call them, but if somebody calls them peroneus longus and brevis, they're equally right. So that gives us 5 muscles that are on the anterior lateral compartment. So we've got tibialis anterior, extensor digitorum longus, extensor hallucis longus, peroneus longus, and peroneus brevis, or fibularis brevis and fibularis longus. Bam. And that's our 11 muscles of the leg, which is a lot.
Which ones go to the feet?
All of them.
Yes.
All.
Okay.
And really, to me,
Ollie.
even the calf muscles go to the feet, right? Because they go to the calcaneal bone, right? So all of them. They are all there.
Everyone.
Yeah, it's all my forearm muscles here, by the way, essentially go to my hands, right? That's what their job is, to puppet my hands. That's why your forearm wiggles. You can't see it in the camera, but my forearm wiggles when I move my hands. Because it's all puppeting. Your legs are the same way. Your legs are there. Your legs are there to move your feet. The stuff going on below your knee. Yep, it all goes. So all 11 muscles go to your feet, your toes, all that stuff. Yes. Yeah, really good
Thank
question. Thank you. So just really quick before you go, what are the 6 muscles of the posterior calf region?
Oh my gosh.
Posterior leg region.
Gastrocnemius soleus plantaris. Under that, you have your flexor digitorum longus. You have your flexor hallucis longus. And you have your posterior tibialis posterior.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And essentially you have kind of the opposites of those in the front, right? So you kind of know the ones that are on the anterior, tibial area, right?
I mean, kind of.
Yeah, so you got what's the muscle in the front of the tibia?
The tibial anterior.
Tibialis anterior. And then you got 2 extensors there that have to extend the toes and the big toe and the digits.
So extensor hallucis longus, extensor digitorum longus.
Good. And then we've just learned about 2 new muscles on the side that are either called the
Peroneal.
Yep, peroneals, peroneus longus and brevis, or the fibularis longus and brevis.
But it's all fascia.
It's all fascia. But this is fascia that can contract.
Thank you.
This is fascia full of contractile tissue that we call muscles.
Thank you very much for doing that.
Thank you. Good. Okay, everybody. Miss Carrillo, please.
I was just hold on.
Okay. Mr. Singletary, please.
I think it might help everybody in the trail guide on page 35 and 37. It lists a lot of those things that you were saying because I'm all over the place right now.
I don't blame you, sir. I'm not sure that was ahead of schedule, but it's kind of a preview of coming attractions. But anyway, I do appreciate you saying that. You're absolutely right. It's in the book there. So it's a great place to look. Miss Carrillo, we're going to take another stab at it? Okay.
Okay, so I was thrown off because I heard my voice twice. So from what I was noticing, so it's tibialis posterior and interior, and it's the digitorum longus flexor and extensor, it's the hallucis, longus, flexor, extensor, and then the peroneus, longus, and brevis. That's what
Yes.
I was noticing.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
So there's like 2 each. Okay.
She's showing the mirroring thing, which makes sense, by the way. If I lift a toe up, I've got to pull it back, right? I mean, it makes sense. And so we're later going to learn all sorts of neat stuff about these muscles. I'm kind of excited. But anyway, I get really excited about this. I get really excited for a couple reasons, by the way. Feet are the foundation of your body, and other schools don't seem to teach this. I meet other massage therapists, and I'm like, you don't know what's going on from the knee down? Like, that's a big area to just be kind of like, well, there's some calves down there, and I'm like, okay. Anyway, so I get excited for us to have this nice, well-rounded kind of real understanding of structural anatomy. That said, that's a cliffhanger. Became about bones is always a little bit dry. Miss Kritta's like, no, it's not dry. It's the most wonderful thing in the world. I just meant like people, get more like muscles, but we need the bones to know where the muscles go, right? And the bones also tell us where all the joints are, which tells us where all the articulations occur, because your joints are your articulations, where you bend. And feet are very complex. They're actually loaded with joints. We just think about the toes wiggling, but every single bone, just like in your wrists and stuff, there's 8 bones in here. They're all moving for me to be able to do fancy stuff like this. So, Miss Rader, please talk to me.
Are the calcaneus and the talus, is there a joint between them, or are they fused together, or?
Yes. So
there's a joint.
There is a joint. So there's a tibio-talus joint, or the talocrural joint, as your book likes to call it. And there is a calcaneal talus joint too. Yes. All of the areas in your feet between the bones technically have a joint there. Obviously, some move more than others, but they're all joints. Yeah, quite literally, and they are not fused, except on somebody who's had surgery. Sometimes people get stuff fused on purpose, but no, like basically all of us in our class, that's a joint, or at least 95% of us. Somebody might have a fused something. Okay, let's take a look at these bones because it helps, especially with the calcaneus, where it lies and how all this stuff works. All right, and we are moving. And there is the feet inside, I'm assuming, a basin of water with no skin on them. Okay, there are some really interesting structures in here, by the way, that you might want to think about a little bit. You will see these kind of ribbons here of fascia. Does anybody remember what ribbons of fascia are called? Miss Rader, please.
Is it a retinaculum?
Retinaculum, yes, guys. You have fascia wrapped around your wrists and feet, just like gymnasts do. When gymnasts are wrapping their wrists or their ankles, or athletes are wrapping their wrists or their ankles, they are just literally putting on man-made fascia over their fascia. So you've got fascia wrapping around your ankles. And I want to point out some other stuff too. Do you guys see these long tendons going down to the toes here on top? Those are the tendons of your flexor digitorum longus and your your extensor digitorum longus and your extensor hallucis longus. The muscles are up here that pull, and they go through a pulley. They have to turn a corner here underneath this extensor retinaculum, and they go and attach to the toes. And then when this thing contracts up here, it pulls these wires that are tendons and extends your toes. And that's the way it works in the bottom too. So your feet, in a very real way, are puppeted from the leg. In a very real, yes. You're just puppets, yeah. Beautiful puppets. Marionettes, yes. All right. Oh! Does anybody get this joke? I saw this morning on Instagram, and the fact that we were going to do feet, and it was the holidays, I was like, oh my gosh. Miss Savarino, yes?
Is it like chalice on a talus or something?
Yes! You got Elf on a Shelf,
Nice.
but have you seen a chalice on a talus? Yeah, I thought it was amazing.
I like that chalice too. It's dope.
It is dope, yeah. That's probably, yeah, probably the lost chalice. Yeah. I love it. Yes. Chalice on a talus. I just thought it was too perfect because it was the elf on it was the holidays and we're doing feet. So anyway, I did not search for this. This is just what I found when I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning and couldn't go back to sleep. So anyway, chalice on a talus, and you can kind of see how the talus, this is not a perfect example, but you can kind of see how the calcaneal bone is here. You can actually palpate a little bit of on top of the foot here. The talus is sitting down on it. The tibia is sitting here. I know it shows the fibula kind of resting here too, but the weight of your foot, trust me, is directly on the talus. Let's move on and look at some actually more articulate pictures and such. Some things to mention. When you see lines on top of people's feet, you're not actually seeing the bones usually, you're seeing the tendons. When you see lines on top of people's feet, you're not seeing the bones, you're seeing the tendons. And look at how this tendon comes down, it splits into 4, and it's the tendon of the extensor digitorum longus that Miss Abelos and I were just talking about. There's also something else. Yes, triangles, thank you, triangles. There's also something else very interesting. Your tibialis anterior you can't see here, but it's over here on the lateral side. It comes and crosses over the foot. If you see a muscle coming down from the lateral side of the leg and crossing, the tendon crossing over the foot and disappearing underneath it, that is the tibialis anterior. That is very important later when we learn about the tibialis anterior. It is very important that it crosses over like this. All right, that's it. Let's talk about these bones. Okay, so here is your calcaneus, this beautiful heel bone back here. But notice that it extends underneath the talus and even has a small palpatable part here. And then these 5 bones here, according to your trail guide, I know it's not according to your massage therapy textbook, but it doesn't matter. It's just a matter of how you want to name stuff. These 5 bones here are kind of the wrist bones of your foot. And they, as a group, these 5 bones are called the tarsals. Now, they each have individual names. You've got these 3 bones that look fairly similar, called the cuneiform, or cuneiform, I've heard it said both ways. Cuneiform or cuneiform bones. You obviously have to name them, and so you've got a medial cuneiform bone, a lateral cuneiform bone, and a middle cuneiform bone. One of the things I like about this is it tells you that there is a difference between medial and middle. Medial means closer to the midline. Middle means between 2 things. You can be middle, but way out here on the lateral side, right? So that's why you have a lateral cuneiform bone, a middle cuneiform bone, and a medial cuneiform bone. You've got the navicular, this long bone. Oh shoot, I do that every time. You got the navicular here, and the cuboid that looks like a cube. Those 5 bones are your tarsals. Then you have what are called your metatarsals. By the way, if this was on your hand, these are your carpals and these are your metacarpals. So it's very similar. You've got 5 metatarsals, and then you've got these phalanges, right? And a lot of us were surprised to find out that you actually in your little toe have 3 phalanges. 1, 2, 3. And 3 here, and 3 here, and 3 here, and then 2 big toe ones. So, this is distal phalange number 1. This is proximal phalange number 5. This is middle phalange number 3. This is metatarsal number 1. This is metatarsal number 3. This is metatarsal number 5. I want to point out a very important structure on metatarsal number 5. There is a bone sticking out to the side of the foot. We're later going to find that it's a good little kind of pulley for some muscles and such. But I want to point it out to you guys because it's painful to have it rubbed directly. You can rub around it, it's pleasurable. But a lot of people don't realize they do a stroke up the side of the foot and they bump over this guy over and over again. It's just kind of a rookie mistake that a lot of massage therapists make for their entire 20-year career. So rookie mistake that they do over and over again because they don't know their anatomy. So just watch that. That's on the lateral side of the foot. It's not hypersensitive, but it's sensitive, and know that there's a bony bump there and that you're trying to compensate for it just like you compensate for the greater trochanter. And that might be a funny comparison that I compared this tiny bump to the greater trochanter, which is probably the largest bump on your body, right? Here's why I made that comparison. This is very, very important. Detail on the feet is extremely important because they are tiny and articulate. You can do big forearm strokes on the thighs because the thighs are big, the muscles are big. Detail work is still amazing there around the greater trochanter and all that kind of stuff, and it's important. But feet are tinier, the bones are tinier, and millimeters matter more on the feet. There are things you can do on the leg and be off a whole inch that still are perfect. On the foot, millimeters matter. A little bump on the foot is a big deal on a foot, right? So think about that when you're dealing with foot. This is what estheticians know, right, about faces. Estheticians, their whole class is on this tiny face. They care about every tiny little nook and cranny on that face because it's their whole world. That's how you should think about feet. Very, very tiny, and everything is important. So then all of these are truly joints between all these bones. So how do we name joints? We usually name them by the two bones that come together. So if the metatarsals connect up with the phalanges, we'd say this is the metatarsal phalangeal joint number 1, because this is the metatarsal phalangeal joint number 2, metatarsal phalangeal joint number 3, 4, 5. If there's a joint between two phalanges, we'd say this is the interphalangeal joint number 1. Now we got a problem over here because on number 2, we've got two interphalangeal joints. So what do I call this interphalangeal joint number 2? What do I call this one right here? Can anybody see it? Miss Carrillo, please.
Is that when you call it the distal?
All day long,
Int-
yes.
Yeah.
Distal interphalangeal joint number 2, because this is proximal interphalangeal joint number 2, and this is metatarsal phalangeal joint number 2. And then this gets really confusing, but it doesn't have to be if you just think about it for a second. This does not have to be confusing if you actually think about it. The joints between your tarsal bones, remember these 5 bones are all called the tarsals as a group? This would be the joint between these tarsal bones and my metatarsals is just called tarsal metatarsal number 1. Tarsal metatarsal number 2. But believe it or not, there are joints between the toes from side to side. They actually touch here. So this is an intermetatarsal joint. So is this. So is this, because they have articulation between each other. Because remember I told you that there's a curve this way and also to the sides? That's because your metatarsals are supposed to wiggle by each other. So don't just be thinking about flexing and extending feet. Think about bending them and unbending them laterally and medially, because they have a curve that way too. This is a big deal. People that are really good at footwork get really good at moving and manipulating the bones, and you actually try to move each one of these bones. You try to isolate each one of these bones from the other bones. You guys do this with toes all the time because toes are easy. But grab in deeper and try to grab just metatarsal number 1 and wiggle it free from all these other bones. Do that with all of these in there. Then go into the tarsals and try to wiggle them free. Then manipulate the ankle and the talus and try to open that up and bend the foot and try to get your thumb in between that stuff. Judiciously, but do it. They can take it. Anyway, this is a bottom view. A bottom view of the foot. This is going to sound like a weird question because we're talking about feet right now, but what kind of bone is your patella, your kneecap that every gal and fella has? What kind of bone is it? Miss Hendrickson.
Sesamoid?
Yes, and what is the sesamoid bone?
Floating bones and attached to other bones
Yeah,
by tendons.
yeah, it's wrapped in tendon, it's floating. And what's the purpose of sesamoid bones?
For things to attach to them.
They're present in high stress areas where we have lots of force running over a joint. Yeah. And so the foot, well done by the way, the foot is one of the places where you have two little baby kneecaps. Right here and here. And I will tell you everybody, this is another spot. Remember I warned you down here about this hook hanging out of metatarsal number 5? This area right here, if you run up the foot and run into these guys from the bottom here, tends to be very sensitive on people, and it's annoying. So be careful of that. You're not damaging them per se, but it's annoying. And clients don't often tell you about stuff like this because they're like, oh my God, they're doing such a... I've had really good massages where I don't tell them about some little thing they're doing because I don't want them to back off from everything else they're doing. But I've had people run over this little hook here over and over again and then run into these sesamoid bones over and over again, and it's just unpleasant. Miss Clayton, please.
So those are on the ball.
Yes.
Big toe,
Yes.
right? Right before the big toe.
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
exactly. And they're kind of at the base of that ball.
Okay.
At the more proximal side of the ball as opposed to the distal side, yes. And I'm not saying don't rub them, everybody. Just like I'm not saying don't rub this thing bumping out over here, but remember that you're coming up to a speed bump. Think of it that way. Slow the vehicle down. Don't just rub over this. Anyway, this gives us a very clear picture once again of the phalanges, the metatarsals, the tarsals, which have the medial, middle, and lateral cuneiforms, the cuboid, the navicular. You can see the calcaneus, and you can see the talus kind of sneaking out here, parts of it sitting on top of the calcaneus. Awesome. Then they're just breaking all these apart for you. I don't actually find this very helpful, but they're breaking all this apart for you. And then here's a side view of the foot. This side view of the foot, by the way, this is how most people's feet look. You see the bottom of the foot. You don't see this arch very much. You see some of it. Look how much space there is in here. This is not hollow, empty space. We are going to find out that a lot of brevis muscles attach into the back of the heel here. And this is why when you're working down towards somebody's heel, I don't want you to scrape over it, although I do want you to do that too, because the calcaneal tendon turns into the plantar fascia that goes to these toes. But I also want you to dig into the back of the heel here, actually go in to get that stuff. And this bump actually has a name, yes, as your book is pointing out, the tuberosity of the 5th metatarsal. Real nice fit here. You can kind of see how all this stuff fits together. Beautifully done. Here's from the other side. You can see the little sesamoid bone peeking out right here. Boom, boom, boom. And that's it. So, yeah, that's it. Let me just make sure it's not something that you can't live without here. No. Not at all. So, you'll have a brief test, I believe, on what those bones are. You definitely want to identify them. There aren't that many. And I admit that you probably don't need to know in your career all the names of the tarsals, all 5. But you should know they exist and that they're there and they can be manipulated. And so when I work feet, by the way, I'm flexing and extending them, but I'm also laterally kind of bending them up and down, and I'm also rotating them to get all those bones to move, right? And try to isolate them and see how loose you can get. Think about any of you who have had children. Think about how their little feet were when they could pick stuff up with their feet and how articulate they were. And then we shoved them into shoes and we sent them out in the world and we said, get a job. And guess what happened? Their feet stopped moving as much because we don't use them that way. There's probably somebody in this class who could still use their feet to like pick up pencils and things like that, right? Got a pretty good idea who it is now. So, I have an aunt like that, and she can hurt you with her toes. She'll grab you and stuff like that. but most of us lose most of that articulation. Where in the beginning we have almost as much articulation with our feet as we do our hands. So we're trying to get people back to that. Okay? If I use some big general statements about massage, which I love doing all the time, blood is life, movement is life, it's all about stretching, it's all about creating space. This is something I used to say all the time. Massage is about creating space. You're creating space between joints, space within tissue, so that the life-giving blood can get back in there and your body can heal. Right? We are not crazy enough to think that we are healing. Our body can heal when I give it space to. Right? So, we're going to open up all those joints and articulate all that stuff so that our body can heal, or the client's body can heal. And that's why we want to move all these little bones around. Super duper important. Yeah? Yeah. Okay. So I'll release homework in just a second, but I do want to do a little muscular review. Miss Ablos requested that we go back over, she sent me an email on break and went back over, by the way, usually if my lips are moving, I'm lying, just so you guys know. Anytime I say somebody sent me an email, it's a lie. Anyway, sent me an email over break and said that we should re-review the muscles of the leg. She'd like to kick that off, and then she asked if I'd ask other people the same question. She said it was very important that everybody feels included, and she didn't want to leave anybody out. So I reluctantly agreed. Mr. Richards, yes, sir.
I got the same email off Mr. Mitrik too.
Oh, oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr.
Payback bitch.
Yeah. Mr. Richards, by the way, since your mic is hot already, and you're on with us, sir, and since I normally pick on you, I feel like it's only fair to have you go first to show you some favoritism.
My throat's so sore, sir.
Yes. So sore. Well, that's okay, because there's only 11 muscles in the leg, so you only have to speak 11 times. So, do you want me to say sections for you first, or do you want to take a stab at it? I don't mind either way. We just introduced these.
I'll give it a try.
Okay.
Working that when you was practicing with Miss Abelow. So
oh, good. Let's start out with the posterior leg muscles, and I recommend you start out with the 3 calf muscles first.
So gastrocnemius, plantaris, and soleus.
Yeah. Then underneath there's 3 more underneath. Yeah.
Yeah. So you got the tibialis posterior, the flexor longus digitorum. Sorry, the other way around. Flexor digitorum longus, the flexor hallux longus.
Hallucis.
There's a Hallux, hallux.
Yeah, but the muscle said it should say hallucis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Flexor hallucis longus. Then on the anterior, you've got the tibialis inferior, the extensors hallux longus.
Extensor hallucis longus.
Hallucis. It's because the way it's
the Google site you're using.
Yeah. I didn't go Google. I didn't do Google, I promise. Then you've got the extensor digitoris longus.
Yes.
And on the side, you've got the fibularis or the prenolials longus and brevis.
Wow! Dude! Way to go! I would like to give you a hard time, but you knocked that, like, out of the park! Yeah! Woo!
See?
Okay.
Mr. Mitrik's turn.
Yes, Mr. Mitrik. Thank you, Mr. Richards. I know. Mr. Mitrik, and again, by the way, everybody, I'm happy to run through these with you. I'm just trying to get used to saying the names and getting used to these leg muscles because they're new. So, Mr. Mitrik, can you tell me the 6 muscles that are found in the posterior leg region?
We got the gastrocnemius, the soleus, plantaris, tibialis posterior, flexor digitorum longus, and flexor hallucis longus.
Yes. Stop right there for a second. She's 100% right, everybody. I want to tell you something that might help you. If this is a leg, and when I flex, right, my toes go down, think about it. What can pull these toes down? The only thing that can pull them down is stuff from the back of the leg. So all your flexors are in the back of your leg. All of your flexors are. All of your extensors are on the front. And by the way, on my arms, flexors, extensors. Anyway, great job. Can you tell us the 3, it depends on how you want to divide them up, but the 3 to 5 muscles on the anterior and lateral compartment of the leg?
Anterior tibialis, and exterior
Extensor.
extensor digitorum longus, extensor halleus longus.
Hallucis longus, yes. And then on the sides, you've got the somethings or the somethings.
Pernoius longus and Pornoius brevis.
Peronius longus, Peronius
Got the
brevis.
British accent again.
Yeah, tomato, yeah. Or the fibularis longus and brevis. Another way to say it. Really well done. Really well done. I'm sure you will thank Mr. Richards for, volunteering you when you get to
I
campus.
do. Thanks so much.
Yeah. You can maybe help him find some of those muscles with your foot. Yeah. Okay. Miss Carrillo.
Yes, Chef. Yes, Mr. Tapscott.
Miss Carrillo, what are the 6 muscles of the posterior leg compartment?
We got the gastrocnemius, soleus, and plantaris, and then under those, we have the tibialis posterior.
Mm-hmm.
We have the flexor longus. Oh no, I'm blanking out. Hold on.
Flexor something longus.
Was it the? It's not that. Is it the digit? It is the digitorum, flexor digitorum longus, flexor digitorum brevis? No, hallucis.
Longus, yeah.
And
Longus,
then,
yeah. And
And
then
then the
and the-
extensor
in the front,
longus digitorum.
extensor digitorum longus.
Okay, extensor digitorum longus.
Doing great.
Extensor hallucis longus.
Yep.
And then the peronius.
Wait. What's the muscle on the front of the tibia?
Oh, the anterior.
Anterior
Tibialis
tibialis.
anterior.
Okay. And then on the side.
And peronius. Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
Don't be
Not
sorry. I
this.
love what you are doing. You are trying to extract the information from your brain, so it doesn't come out as clean. But it's you're learning. This is actually much better than having it just read kind of thing.
I figure me trying to separate it into sections, I'll eventually get the wording correct. But yeah.
So the section, but you're about to say the peroneals?
Yeah.
So Peronius
Per-
longus and brevis?
Mm-hmm.
Can
As
you,
I'll say.
can you say that?
Peronius longus, peronius brevis.
And those are also known as the muscles that run right by the fibula, so they're called
Fibularis.
fibularis. Awesome. Thank you, Miss Creel.
Thank you.
Miss Rader. Miss Rader, can you talk to us about the 11 muscles that are found on the leg?
Yes. So you have the gastrocnemius, soleus, and plantaris. Underneath that, you have the tibialis posterior, flexor digitorum longus, and the flexor hallucis longus. And then in the front, you have the tibialis anterior and the extensor digitorum longus and the extensor hallucis longus. And then on the side, you have the peronius longus and peronius brevis, or fibularis longus and brevis.
Sorry, I started whistling because that was really good. That was awesome. Thank you. I wonder how many of those muscles in back, those 6 muscles in back, I know they go to the toes and the big toe, and I wonder how many of them kind of act to also help with the dorsiflexion. Anyway, Mr. Singletary.
Damn.
That's not one of the muscles, sir. Mr. Singletary, what are the 6 muscles of the posterior leg compartment?
Okay. Well, the easy ones are the gastrocnemius, soleus, and plantaris.
Good.
Now.
Deep to those.
Okay. Okay. Tibialis posterior.
Yep.
The flexor digitorum longus.
Yep.
The flexor, is it hallucis?
Hallucis
Hallucis?
longus, yeah.
Hallucis longus,
Longus.
I
Yeah,
think.
that was great.
Okay.
Now
Okay.
now the 3 that are in front and the 2 that are on side.
Okay. Is it extensor?
Yep, because on top
Digit-
would extend. Yeah,
Digitorum longus, and then I guess the extensor hallucis longus.
yeah.
Oh.
And there's a muscle in the front of the
wait.
tibia.
Well, of course, the tibialis anterior.
There
Of
you
course,
go.
and the I forgot the wording that you used, but it was the opposite of the peroneus, the longest, and the brevis. I forget. Is it fibularis or
Yeah,
something that
sure
you
is.
called it?
That's both are correct. Proneus longus and brevis and fibularis longus and brevis. Beautifully done. Beautifully done. Thank you, sir. Well done.
Am I missing anything?
No. No, you couldn't be more perfect.
Oh my God. Okay, thank you.
Hey, boss, do you want to come say hi to everybody? Yeah. Come on.
Hi, everybody! Happy holidays, you guys. I just want you to know from the bottom of my heart and everyone else, I hope that you and your family have the best holidays and you guys are super enjoying your education. And I look forward to watching you guys complete your journey through this. So thank you for all you guys do, and I wish you the best through the holiday season, and I hope you enjoy your breaks coming up here real soon, okay? Thank you, Mr.
Have a great Christmas for all of us.
Bye, you guys.
Thank you, boss.
Thank
You too.
Merry Christmas.
I've said this before, and she is gone now. I really mean this. Best freaking boss I've ever had in my life. I have weekly meetings with every boss I've ever had, right? My weekly meetings with her, for one thing, last about 5 minutes. And they always consist of this. I just have to sing her praise. What do you need and what do your students need? That is the entire conversation. That's it. That's all I ever get asked. What do you need? What do your students need? It's amazing. Ms. Avalos, please.
So all of the muscles except the tibialis anterior do plantar flexion. And then so the dorsiflexion would be the tibialis anterior, the gastrocnemius.
Wait, no. So, I think you're on the right track, but I think you got confused. So, for one thing, we're talking about dorsiflexion right now, right?
Right?
Okay. Wait, we're talking about dorsiflexion.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm so sorry. So, but I feel like, all right, so dorsiflexion is when my whole foot comes up, right?
Right.
So I don't feel like any muscle in back can help my foot come up.
So it would be the tibialis anterior.
Yes, tibialis anterior definitely helps my foot come up. Now, let me ask you a question. If I attached a muscle like the extensor digitorum longus and the extensor hallucis longus, if that muscle pulled really hard, if I pulled on my fingers really hard, would my wrist come up?
So it would be all of your extensors.
Yes. So to do a dorsiflexion, your tibialis anterior does it for sure. Even though it's not their main job, your extensor digitorum longus and your extensor hallucis longus help in a dorsiflexion.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, we're going to find out later your peroneals do too. Because your peroneals come down and kind of hook on the bottom of your foot.
I thought they did flexion.
Oh, God, now I got to think for a second. No. They help with a dorsiflexion.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm pausing because I'm. Yeah. What?
So this is a tough one.
It is tough, and we haven't even gotten to it yet. It'll make perfect sense when we look at it. And essentially, by the way, though you already kind of answered this, essentially all the ones in back, if I were to pull on my fingers and flex them, eventually they would bend my wrist. And so essentially, all my calf muscles obviously do, but even my tibialis posterior and even my flexor digitorum longus and my flexor hallucis longus all help with a plantar flexion.
Okay.
So all 6 muscles in back help to plantar flex me if need be, which is important because it's really hard to plantar flex you. Miss Clayton.
So this was confusing to me, but I think I figured it out. So whether you're pointing your toes upward towards the anterior part of your bottom leg, or you're pointing them backward, it's still called the flexion. One's called the dorsiflexion.
Miss Clayton, thank you for actually saying this because it's super confusing. It's one of the things I hate about directional terms. It's the place we don't keep. When my ankle bends, they call it a flexion both ways. When my ankle bends and my foot comes up like I'm stopping a door, I'm lifting my foot up, that's called a dorsiflexion. When I stand on my tippy toes and do a calf raise, that's called a plantar flexion. They call them both flexions. That's true of the ankle. When we get to the toes, it's back to normal. This is my toes flexing, this is my toes extending.
The confusing part then with the muscles is that the posterior are called flexing, the anterior are called extending, but they're really both flexing the ankle just in different directions.
Yes, yes. The muscles on the top of your foot and the front of your leg that help to extend your toes also help you do a dorsiflexion. And I really wish they called it a dorsiflexion. You're right. And I don't know why that is, but you're right. And that's just because some jerk named these both flexions and this dorsiflexion and plantar, and we don't do it anywhere else in the body, so I don't know why they do that. It's really annoying. But thank you. Yes, thank you for clarifying. That is why it's confusing. But by the way, your toes, it's not. This is a flexion of my fingers or a flexion of my toes. This is an extension of my toes. It only relates to the ankle. For whatever reason, that's how they talk about ankles. Miss Carrillo.
Okay, so I was about to say something until you pointed out the toes, but how I had seen it, because that had been confusing to me since Miss Borish taught us it. And I figured it was because at that point in the feet, it is, plantar, so feet, planted to the ground. When you're in anatomical position, there's really no front and back. It's more like bottom. And so I figured it was just relating to the foot, that's the only part of the foot that it would consider a flexion, because at that point it was like its own little section, not front or back. But then you said the toes, and now my world is all.
Yeah.
It's all a lie.
There's no good excuse. They should have called one movement at the ankle. They should have called dorsiflexion, dorsiflexion.
I think I'll still think it that way because it's easier for me to explain it in that aspect, because that's from the heel to the calcaneal tendon. That's where the flexion is, because that's where the angle is decreasing. But it's a lot.
It's really hard. It depends how you look at the angles too. Yes, yeah, that could be part of the problem. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Singletary.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. So you got the flexor and the extensor digitorum longus.
One on the front of the leg, one on the back of the leg. One on the top of the foot, one on the bottom of the foot. Yeah.
And then you have the flexor and the extensor hallucis longus. Is that correct?
Hallucis?
Hallucis.
Oh, hallucis. I'm so sorry. I wasn't trying to make fun of you. I honestly really did get lost there. Hallucis longus.
I don't know.
That's like there's a hellacious muscle. Yeah. If you think about it, sir, muscles can only do one thing. What's that?
Contract.
Contract, which means to pull. If you pull me this way, I'm going to stay this way all day long if we don't have a muscle on the opposite side. And so if you've got extensors, you've got to have flexors.
Flexor. Okay.
You got to. Which is why
I'm just trying to keep all in my head.
Oh, I know. It's a lot. By the way, guys, it's going to be after break. We're going to go over these muscles individually, right? But I was just giving you a chance to get used to saying the names before we do them. So don't over, think it unless you want to. If you enjoy overthinking it too. Yeah, you're doing great. Ms. Savarino, two things. One is you raised your hand. I want to make sure you didn't have a question.
I just wanted to talk about the peroneals for a second.
Talk to me.
But because like Miss Avalos was talking about like the dorsiflexion, I was just like, whenever I feel it, like you can actually like feel it like move, but then like I remember I massaged you, and like I do this like most of the people I massage, like I put them in a dorsiflexion and then I like rub it, because I love like contracting the muscles. And everybody who massages me knows, like every time you get to my arms, I'm always like moving my forearms and like flexing them, because it feels so good whenever you like flex something and then you put pressure. To me, at least, I'm a psychopath.
Sure.
So.
Now, it's different if you're flexing it or if you're putting the client in a flex position. So if I
Right.
flex my forearm, this makes it hard. If you put it there, it
Mhm.
actually makes it loose.
Right.
Anyway, hey, by the way, though, since we're talking,
Oh my god.
you and me, we're having a moment here. I feel like the
Are
whole
we?
world. Yeah, we are. We're having a moment. There's nobody else around. It's just you and me. And I want to ask you. I've always wanted to look into your eyes and say, what are
What's up with you?
11 leg muscles?
11. I thought there were 6. What are you talking
There's
about?
6 on the posterior region, 3 on the anterior region, 2 on the lateral region of the leg, and that adds up
Alright.
to 11.
Me. Let me see.
But you might want to start with the 6 posterior ones.
Sure. So we have the gastrocnemius, the soleus, the plantaris. Then you have the tibialis posterior, the flexor digitorum longus, the flexor hallis longus.
Mhm.
Weird. Extensor digitorum longus is that's like the anterior.
Yeah.
The anterior tibialis is there, and then the extensor hallucis longus, and then you have my favorites, the peroneals. So it's peronealis brevis,
Yeah, Proteus brevis and Proteus.
peroneus brevis, and then peroneus longus.
You understood the assignment. Yeah. Awesome.
Here's.
Thank you.
Is that it?
That's it. Thank you for this moment. I'll remember it forever.
Gosh.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye. By the way, I'm going to keep going around the class and asking questions, but what I'm going to do is release homework so that if you're feeling antsy, because obviously I'm just quizzing people, right? I'd like to give other people a chance to say this. So I'm releasing the homework. You have 2 pieces of homework. And if I call on you, you just need to stop for a second so you can answer what the 11 muscles of the leg are. But those 2 pieces of homework are a 9-question test, I think, on the feet, and a matching, questions in the back of the chapter for chapter 4 in your massage therapy textbook that's on longevity. So you've got this matching questions test, and then you've got some questions about the bones of the foot. Yeah, cool. And you can work on that instead of listening to me drown on and on and on. Cool? Especially like Miss Savarino, who's done, she can work on her homework now. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Mr. Bose.
Hi.
Hi, Mr. Bose. Mr. Bose, what are the 6 muscles that are found in the posterior leg compartment, also known as the sural region?
Okay. Let's see. So we have the plantaris.
Yep.
Okay. The soleus.
Yep.
And is it the tibialis posterior? That one is it?
Yep. But you're saying in a very interesting order, but yep. I still need another calf muscle and 2 flexors. Yeah.
Oh, just wait, hold on. I said plantaris, soleus, gastrocnemius.
Yes, that's 3 calf muscles. And then you
Okay.
said tibialis posterior, which was excellent. And then there's 2 flexor muscles that go to, like, my toes.
There's a flexor longus, or flexor digitorum longus.
Yeah, think about it. It's a long muscle that hooks to your digits and flexes them. Flexor digitorum longus, yes. And
And
then,
then flexor hallis longus.
yeah, flexor hallucis longus.
Okay, hallis longus. Okay.
That's good. All right, now can you tell me the 3 muscles that are kind of on the anterior tibial region?
So I know there's the anterior tibialis, right?
Anterior
no.
tibialis or tibialis anterior? Absolutely.
And then, hold on. Extensor digitorum longus.
Yep.
Okay, extensor hallis longus. Hallucis longus. Were those the 3?
Yes, that's correct. I'm sorry. I got lost in my thought here, but yes, you are correct. Now, can you tell me the two muscles found on the side of the leg, lateral side of the leg?
Is it the peroneus longus and the peroneus brevis?
Yes. Yes. Awesome. Yes. The reason I got lost in thought, oh, Miss Avalos left. I'll tell her in a second. I got lost in thought because of something she said that I told her wrong. Anyway, that was perfect, Mr. Bosch. You did great. Thank you.
Thanks.
You got homework available if you want to do it.
Okay.
Miss Young.
Okay, I gotta do this really quick because I gotta leave.
Okay, Miss Young, what are the 6 muscles that are in the posterior leg compartment?
Soleus, plantaris, and gastrocnemius.
Yep, what are the 3 underneath that?
Flexor digitorum longus, flexor hallucis longus, and tibialis posterior.
Yes. What are the 3 muscles found on the anterior leg compartment?
Extensor longus, digitorum, extensor hallucis longus, and tibialis anterior.
Yeah, I'll take it. And what are the 2 found on the side?
Dang it, I forgot what it was. I just put that in the book, so I can't even look. I know it starts with a P.
It does, or it starts with an F because they run along the fibula.
I don't even remember the second part. Oh, fibularus,
Fibularis.
brevis, and fibularis brevis, and
If you got a short, you also have to have a.
Fibularis longus. Is that
Yeah.
what it
So
is?
fibularis longus and brevis, or
Okay.
peroneus longus and brevis. Beautifully done. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Overman.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Overman, what are the 6 muscles that make up the posterior leg compartment?
The posterior. So you have the flexor hallucis longus.
Yeah.
Tibialis posterior. Flexor digitorum longus.
Yeah.
Soleus, gastrocnemius, and plantaris.
Yes. What are the 3 muscles that make up the anterior leg compartment?
Anterior. Let's see. There's only 3. So we have more. Extensor hallucis longus. Extensor digitorum longus. Peroneus longus.
Tibialis anterior.
And tibialis anterior.
Yeah, and then on the side of the leg, I'm getting really nitpicky, but on the side of the leg, you'd
okay.
say the peroneals are. Don't get me wrong,
So-
it's kind of front. I mean, I get it.
Well, to be honest, I'm reading out of the book. So.
That's okay. Actually,
so
sir, that's exactly where we're at right now, is reading out of the book.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, like
So
that.
the peroneus are lateral?
Yeah, they
Is that
run
right?
right down your fibula. They're basically lateral, but I guess if you could argue anything, maybe they're a little anterior. Anyway, they're definitely lateral. Let's stick with lateral. That's where you'd rub them.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you did great, though. That's all I'm doing right now. It's almost ridiculous because we don't know what we're talking about, but I just want us used to talking about it and being like, oh, they're somewhere there, right? Very good. Very good. Thank you, sir. Perfect. Good. Do your homework. Eat your vegetables. Miss Suriel. Oh, Miss Suriel, you've got a second to think because Miss Green just raised her hand.
am here.
Oh, good. Miss Suriel, what are the 6 muscles that make up your posterior leg compartment, the back of your leg, your sural region?
Gastrocnemius, soleus, plantaris, and the other 3 are very hard for me. It's like longissima something.
Do you want me to say them with you?
Please, Mr.
Okay.
Tapscott.
So repeat after me. Tibialis posterior,
Tibialis posterior,
yeah, which just means the muscle found on the back of the tibia. And then we have the flexor digitorum longus.
flexor digitorum longus.
Yeah, the long muscle that flexes my digits. The
Okay.
flexor hallucis longus.
Flexor hallucis longus.
And hallucis means big toe. So anytime you see hallucis, it's going big toe. But anyway, it's a long muscle that flexes the big toe. Good, that's all 6 to the backside. Let's do the 3 muscles that are in the front. So you've got 3 muscles in front. Do you want me to say them with you?
Please.
Please. The anterior tibialis or tibialis anterior.
Tibialis anterior,
Yes. The extensor digitorum longus.
extensor digitorium longus,
the extensor hallucis longus.
extensor hallucis longus,
Good, and then there's two muscles on the side. The proneus longus and brevis,
proneus longus and brevis,
which is also called the fibularis longus and brevis.
fibularis longus and brevis.
Thank you, ma'am. Do your homework. You're good.
Thank you, Mr. Topska.
Miss Green, you raised your hand, madam.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, can I go really quick because I just need a shower?
Need a shower, yes, as long as I don't call you twice. Miss Green, what are the 6 muscles of the posterior leg compartment?
So it's plantaris, soleus, and gastrocnemius, and then the other 3 are tibialis posterior, flexor digitorum longus, flexor hallucis longus,
Yeah.
and then you want the rest of them?
Yeah. So give me the
Okay.
give me the 3 in front now.
Okay, anterior or tibialis anterior, and then extensor digitorum longus, extensor hallucis longus, and then the other 2 are peroneus longus and peroneus. Is it brevis?
Yeah, proneus longus brevis. Yeah. Just like anytime you have a George Senior, you've got a George Junior always, that kind of thing. So you get anytime you got a longus, you got a brevis. Perfect. Thank you, ma'am. Miss Stevens.
Yes.
Miss Stevens, can you tell me the 6 muscles that make up the posterior leg compartment?
The gastrocnemius, soleus, and plantaris. Is the flexor hallucis longus? That's in the back, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Flexor digitorum longus and the tibialis posterior.
Beautiful. Tell me the 3 in front.
Tibialis anterior, extensor digitorum longus, extensor hallucis longus,
Perfect. Tell me the 2 on the side.
peroneus longus, and peroneus brevis.
Perfect. Tell me the 2 other names for those.
The fibularis longus and brevis.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you, ma'am. Hey, Miss Abelos, I don't know because I don't remember exactly, but I think I might have told you something wrong when you were talking about dorsiflexion and plantar flexion. And it's bothering me because every time somebody talks about it, it's bothering me.
Yes.
I asked you that question, like how many muscles help with this plantar flexion?
Uh-huh.
So that's where we're setting our tiptoes. And it's definitely, by the way, it's definitely all 3 calf muscles. It's definitely tibialis posterior and flexor digitorum longus and flexor hallucis longus. I don't remember which way I told you, but the peroneus longus and brevis also help with the plantar flexion because the way they come around the ankle, we're going to learn. And I think I might have told you the opposite, and it was bothering me. I don't remember though. And so I just
This contemplation isn't done. You're in my brainstorming phase right now. You can get to see this part. I'm normally in the closet.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll get back to that when we actually learn them.
We will.
Miss Deng.
Yes.
Miss Deng, would you like me to say the muscles with you? Or would you just like to try?
myself.
I like that, Miss Deng. Miss Deng, please tell me the 6 muscles that make up the posterior, the back of your leg. 6 muscles.
Okay. Gastrocnemius, soleus, plantaris, tibialis posterior, flexor hallucis longus, flexor digitorum longus.
Dang, Miss Deng. Wow. All right, can you tell me the 3 muscles in front?
Tibialis anterior, extensor hallucis longus, extensor digitorum longus.
Yes. Can you tell me the 2 on the side?
Peroneus longus, peroneus brevis.
Miss Dang, that was perfect. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. You, jeez. Wow. Wow. Awesome. Thank you, ma'am. Brave, too, by the way. It's always brave when you try to do that kind of stuff. Mr. Manzanares. Mr. Manzanares. Oh yeah, you can run, but you can't hide. All right. Mr. Manzanares, sir. Mr. Manzanares. Hey! Pretty good. You unmuted yourself. And there you go, buddy. Mr. Manzanares, can you tell me, and I'm happy to say I'm with you if you want, can you tell me the 6 muscles that make up the posterior leg compartment, the sural region?
Yeah.
Cool.
It's soleus, plantar.
Yep.
And casmia.
Yes.
And the flexor digitorum.
Yes.
And the flexor hallucis longus.
Yes.
And
one more. You've got
the tibialis posterior.
Yes. Perfect. Now, can you tell me the 3 muscles found on the anterior leg compartment? What, sir? Just say it. Say it again. That's all. I'm losing you. The what?
The thing is,
you just cut out a little bit. I think
the
you're
connection.
saying. Yeah, but I think you're saying it right. So say it again.
The extensor hallucis longus.
Perfect. Yes.
And fibularis longus.
And fibularis.
I don't know those close one.
And the fibularis brevis.
Extensor digitorum longus and brevis.
So in front, it's tibialis anterior, extensor digitorum longus, and extensor hallucis longus. So say those 3 again for in front. So in front, say tibialis anterior. Mr. Manzanares. Just say tibialis anterior, sir. Mr. Manzanares.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? All right, I'm going to come back to you in a second, sir. We'll see if we have better connection. Because you're cutting it out. Just take a break for a second. I'll come back to you. Where was I? I was going around here. Mr. Snell.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Snell, what are the 6 muscles that make up the posterior leg compartment?
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Is it good connection?
It's fantastic.
Cool. You have the gastrocnemius soleus plantaris. Good. And then you have the tibialis posterior, the flexor digitorum longus, flexor hallucis longus.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. What are the 3 muscles found in front on the anterior leg compartment, the crural region?
The extensor hallucis longus, extensor digitorum longus.
And one more.
And the tibialis anterior.
Beautiful. What are the 2 muscles found on the lateral leg compartment?
The peroneal longus brevis.
Beautiful. What's another name for the peroneals?
Is it the fibulas?
Fibularis.
Longus? Fibularis longus
Beautiful.
brevis.
Beautiful. Thank you, sir. That was really well done. Thank you, thank you. Miss Osuna.
Hello.
Hello, Miss Osuna. Miss Osuna, what are the 6 muscles that make up the posterior leg compartment, the sural region?
It is the gastrocnemius, the soleus, the plantaris, the tibialis posterior, flexor digitorum longus, and the flexor hallucis longus.
Beautiful. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. What are the 3 that make up the front, the anterior compartment?
Tibialis anterior, extensor digitorum longus, and extensor hallucis longus.
Bam! What are the 2 that make up the side, the lateral side?
The peroneus longus and peroneus brevis, or the fibularis longus and brevis.
Thank you, ma'am. Good
And
enough.
then I did have another question.
Please, hit me.
When you and Miss Avalos were talking about the dorsiflexion, you said that there were 4 the tibialis anterior, the extensor digitorum longus, and the hallucis longus. What was that fourth one? I didn't catch it.
That's where I think I made my mistake.
Oh, okay.
I think I was throwing the peroneals there, and I think they're supposed to be for a plantar flexion. I forgot the way they go underneath the ankle. I blew it. I'm pretty sure that's where you got that from. Is that mistake
Okay.
right there?
So it's just those three that dorsiflex?
Yeah, and here's why, by the way, just to let you know. If you think about it, we need a lot more plantar flex power than we do. We need a lot more power pushing our toes down, because what are they doing? They're lifting,
My body.
Yeah. And whereas lifting my toes up is no big deal. Right? You don't need a lot of power. It's just like alligators. Have you ever seen the crocodile hunter where he holds the alligator's mouth shut?
Yeah.
Crocodile's mouth can close with like hundreds of pounds of pressure, but it can't. It only opens with about 5 pounds of pressure because it doesn't normally need strength to do that. So you can hold its mouth shut, and that's why. Yeah. So we got a lot more strength in one direction than another. Thank you, and sorry, and thank you for paying attention, Miss Everson.
Hi.
Hi, Miss Everson. Miss Everson, what are the 6 muscles that make up the posterior leg compartment, also known as the sural region, also known as the back of the leg?
Okay, so you got your gastrocnemius, your soleus, your plantaris, and then you got your tibia posterior, and your extensor digitorum longus. Flexor digitorum longus, and flexor hallucis longus.
Yes, perfect. What are the 3 muscles that are found in the anterior leg compartment, the crural region?
The tibial anterior, the that would be a flexor extensor.
Extensor.
The extensors are in the front?
Yes,
Okay.
because I have to lift up my toes.
That makes sense. Extensor digitorum longus, extensor hallucis longus.
Yes, and what are the 2
And
muscles?
on the side, you got your peroneal, longus and brevis.
Yes, also known as the... Because they run by the fibula.
Fibulas?
Yeah, fibularis, longus and brevis.
Fibula.
Good. Awesome. Well done, ma'am. Thank you, thank you. Mr. Godot.
I thought I was safe.
No, I got you just in the nick of time. Actually, I think I might get to everybody here. Mr. Godot, what are the 6 muscles that are found in your posterior leg compartment, the back of your leg, the sural region?
Wait, that part confused me. I know the. Okay, can I just name the leg muscles?
Yeah, name the leg muscles for me. But I'd like to know the ones in back first.
Oh, the back? Yeah. All right. So soleus, plantaris, longissimus. Hold on. Yeah. Let's see.
Longissimus.
No, that's sorry. All right. Soleus, plantaris, gastrocnemius.
Good. Now there's 3 more underneath those.
Underneath?
Yes. Yes. Maybe like a tibialis posterior, flexor digitorum longus, flexor hallucis longus. Those sound familiar?
Yeah, but I'm not too good at those ones. I have like the
Cool. No, that's
the
no worries.
bicep femoris.
No. Stop. You're not wrong. Those are on the back of the thigh, but we're talking about the back of the leg. So let's say them together. You said correctly the gastrocnemius, the soleus, and the plantaris. Then there's also a tibialis anterior. So say that.
Tibialis anterior.
Yes. And a flexor digitorum longus.
Flexor digitorum longus.
And a flexor hallucis longus.
Flexor hallucis longus.
Yes. Yes, I wonder if you've been paying attention the whole time, sir. But
I have, but it's just hard to remember all of these, honestly.
I believe you. So let's do the front. let's do the front. The front, you've got a tibialis anterior.
Mm.
But I want you to say it. I'm just trying to get you to say it.
Oh, yeah, okay, sorry. Tibialis anterior,
Awesome.
flexor digitorum longus.
No, stop.
flexor hallucis.
We're just doing the ones in
All
front,
right,
buddy.
all
All
right.
right, so tibialis anterior, awesome. Then say flexor digitorum longus.
Flexor
Oh, sorry.
digitorum longus.
Oh, I blew it. That was me. Extensor digitorum longus. Oh my God, I'm losing my mind. Sorry, Mr. Cano.
Yeah, I'm very confused now, but I'll say extensor digitorum longus.
And extensor hallucis longus.
Extensor hallucis longus.
And then there's two on the side of the leg. By the way, every time I'm using the word leg, I mean below the knee. We're not talking about the thigh at all. And that is the Peroneus longus and brevis,
All right, Peroneus longus and brevis.
which are also known as the Fibularis longus and brevis.
Fibularis longus and brevis. All right.
Cool.
Mental note taken.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Craven. me. Mr. Craven, I know that you are under the weather. I know that you are not firing on all 8 cylinders right now. But let's be honest, you're an extremely impressive human being, so I know you can tell me the 6 muscles that make up the posterior leg compartment, the sural region, the back of the leg. What are those 6 muscles, sir?
Gastrocnemius, soleus, plantaris, tibialis posterior, flexor hallucis longus, and flexor digitorum longus.
Beautiful. What are the 3 muscles that make up the anterior compartment of the leg, the crural region?
The extensor hallucis longus, the extensor digitorum longus, and the tibialis anterior.
Bam! Sir, for the final $100 question, what are the 2 muscles that make up the lateral compartment of the leg?
Let's make it 200. Peroneus longus, Peroneus brevis, also known as fibularis.
All right, you're right. $200 coming to you, sir. All
Thank
right.
you.
When I see you today, I'll give it to you. Oh, shoot.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. I'm sorry. You got to read the fine print. That's the problem. You got to read the fine print. Very well done, by the way, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Jones.
Reporting to you live.
Mr. Jones, when you do calf raises, you're actually working all of the muscles of your posterior leg region, the sural region. What are those 6 muscles?
All right. So you got your gastrocnemius, your soleus, your plantaris, and then you have your tibialis posterior, flexor digitorum longus, and your flexor hallucis longus.
Hallucis longus, beautiful. And sir, by the way, as I said incorrectly, but as I'm now trying to correct because I put it in people's brains the wrong way, believe it or not, when you're doing calf raises also, which are plantar flexions, you're also working the 2 muscles on the lateral side of your leg, at least the long one for sure. But anyway, what are the 2 muscles on the lateral side of your leg called?
The fibularis longus and brevis.
Awesome. Or the Peroneus longus and brevis. Good. And what are the 3 muscles found in front of your leg that you are not working when you're doing calf raises?
Tibialis anterior, extensor digitorum longus, extensor hallucis longus.
Way to knock it out of the park. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Before this review, I didn't know them.
Yeah, sir. I didn't know them until I went to massage school, and I was a personal trainer, believe it or not. And they're just, why would I study them? We only studied big muscles of the body. You know, I didn't even know they existed. Yeah. And I assumed everything that was happening in my feet and hands was from muscles inside my feet and hands, and that's only 20% true, probably. Yeah.
All the stuff leading to it.
Yeah, all the power comes from your forearms and from your legs, for your hands and feet. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Mr. Lee.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me the muscles of the posterior leg, or would you like to say them with me?
I can try it.
Please, that's even better, sir. What are the... Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Gastrocnemius, soleus, plantaris. Another 3 is...
I'm okay saying them with you too, sir.
Yeah, please. I forgot
Okay,
it.
just repeat after me, because I'm just trying to get people used to saying them today.
Sure.
So, tibialis posterior,
Tibialis posterior,
flexor digitorum longus,
flexor digitorum longus,
flexor hallucis longus.
flexor hallucis longus.
Good. Now we're going to say the three that are found in front, the anterior leg
I
muscles.
know the three.
Okay.
Tibialis anterior,
Extensor, you're saying it.
extensor hallux
Yeah.
longus.
Yeah.
Extensor digitorum longus.
Yeah. And what are the two on the side?
Two on the side.
The peroneus longus.
Peroneus longus and the brevis.
Good job, Mr. Lee. Thank you very much, sir. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I love it. Miss Pugh.
Hello.
Hi, Miss Pugh. Miss Pugh, what are the 6 muscles that make up the posterior leg compartment?
The gastrocnemius, soleus plantaris, tibialis posterior, and flexor digitoris longus, and flexor hallucis. What was the last word?
Longus.
Flexor longus, and then the 3 anterior are the tibialis anterior, extensor digitoris longus, and the extensor hallucis longus.
Yes, and what are the 2 on the side?
Peroneus brevis and Peroneus, forgot the last word.
Longus.
Oh, brevis and longus.
Beautifully done, Miss Pugh. Thank you, ma'am. Really well done. Miss Lee. I don't think I called her Miss Lee yet. Miss Lee? Did you sneak away?
She had a shot. Feel not good. Lay down there. I think.
Oh.
The booster shot.
Oh, okay. Miss Lee, you're not there? Okay. Mr. Ma. Mr. Ma,
Yes, sir.
you're going to
Yes,
close
sir.
us out, sir. What are the 6 and I'm happy to say I'm with you if you need help, but what are the 6 muscles of the posterior leg compartment?
Okay, so we have gastrocnemius, soleus